You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Coming up, we will talk about the men's basketball tournament. Our Knightline Sports Network analyst, Ben Stout, is in the house. He will join us to talk about that in just a few moments. The players of the week for the final week of the regular season went like this for men's basketball. Michael Weathers of SMU was the player of the week as he led them to a pair of wins and the number 2 seed in the conference tournament. Averaged 17.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, and had a double-double in their final against Tulane with 19 points and 11 boards. The freshman of the week, Jalen Duren of Memphis, helped them to 2 wins, averaging nearly a double-double with 12 points and 9 rebounds per game. Had 16 points, 10 rebounds against South Florida on Thursday. As far as the men's basketball tournament goes, it looks like this as far as the schedule. The opening round on Thursday. Game 1 will have number 9 East Carolina taking on the 8 seed Cincinnati. That'll be on ESPNU. Game 2 will follow that with number 10 Tulsa taking on number 7 Wichita State, also on the U. And men's game 3 will have the 11th seeded South Florida Bulls taking on the number 6 seed UCF, 6 o'clock on ESPNU. And those times are central, by the way, since the games are taking place in Fort Worth. Friday, the winner of the East Carolina-Cincinnati game will take on the 1 seed Houston. That'll be 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. The next game would have number 5 Tulane taking on the 4 seed Temple. That's 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The winner of the second game on Thursday, Tulsa and Wichita State, that winner will get number 2 seed SMU, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. And the winner of the South Florida UCF game will get the 3 seed Memphis. That'll be 9 p.m. on ESPNU. Saturday's games, the semifinal will be on 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 and 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, with the championship game Sunday taking place at 3:15 Eastern on ESPN. Turning to women's basketball, UCF senior guard Diamond Battles earned the American Player of the Year and American Defensive Player of the Year honors to lead the AAC regular season Women's Basketball Award winners as voted on by the league's head coaches. She becomes the first Knights player to be voted the top conference performer in women's basketball during UCF's tenure in the American. The freshman of the year is Tamira Poindexter of Tulsa. The coach of the year, Katie Abramson Henderson of UCF. The newcomer of the year, Moon Urson of Tulane. The most improved player, Tanea Thompson of East Carolina. The sixth player of the year, Brittany Smith of UCF. The Ambassador Award to Seraphine Bestine of Wichita State. First team all-conference, Diamond Battles along with Tanea Thompson, Alina Senecki, Mia Davis, and Moon Urson. The second team was Layla Blair of Houston, Dulcie Fangcom Mendijedu. Pardon me with the mispronunciation there, from South Florida, along with her teammate Bethany Manunga, Savannah Wilkinson of SMU, and Yvette Mayberry of Tulsa. Third team, all-conference, Maseni Kaba of UCF with Tay Sanders, her teammate, Kayla White of SMU, Crystal Freeman of Tulane, and her teammate Dinah Jones round out the third team. All freshmen, Braylon Milton of Cincinnati, Tara East of Temple, Anya Gordine of Temple, Delaney Crawford of Tulsa, and Tamira Poindexter of Tulsa. The women's tournament underway as we record this on Tuesday, March 8th. UCF defeated A-seeded Tulsa, while the 5-seed SMU took down the 4-seed Temple. When we come back, we'll preview the men's tournament. Coming up next with Ben Stout, our basketball analyst of the Knightline Sports Network. Ben is up next when the AAC report continues after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. 1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
All right, the AAC Men's Basketball Tournament set to take place at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth starting on Thursday. And joining us now to give us a preview, we have our own Knightline Sports Network basketball analyst, Ben Stout. Our man in the middle, our 7-footer, is here. Ben, as always, we appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely. As always, it's great to be on with you, Jeff. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, and it's always great to be talking basketball in the month of March to boot. So
it's here, buddy. It's finally here.
Yes,
March is here. March basketball.
yes, it's all good. Yeah, I know. I've got 2 games on screen watching the conference tournament finals, and of course now the AAC getting set to kick things off on Thursday. And of course these are the teams that did not make the top 5, so they have to, in order to win the tournament, try to win 4 games in 4 days, which is a tall order. First game up is East Carolina and Cincinnati. The Bearcats, interesting team. They have had some good spots during the season, but they've had their struggles as well. In East Carolina, of course, they started off fairly strong, but kind of limped in down the stretch. What are your initial thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one for East Carolina to figure out how to score against this Cincinnati team. I mean, that's something that Cincinnati has been known for over the years, and this year is no different. I mean, their defense, especially their defense from the 3-point line, I think has been rather impressive. They certainly don't have a whole lot of size, which is different than the past on Cincinnati. But I just think that they're really tough to score against, especially around the perimeter. And so I think ECU is going to have some trouble there, trying to get past that Cincinnati defense. Now Cincinnati is going to have to figure out how to get some scoring themselves. They're not exactly lighting up the scoreboard themselves, but by the same token, I think that when it comes to an early round matchup like that with Cincinnati versus East Carolina, I think Cincinnati's got enough on the defensive end to take on that matchup and perform well, which makes them an interesting team going forward in the conference. But I think that's how they're going to be able to get that done if they're able to go ahead and take on East Carolina. East Carolina's done okay. I think overperformed from what their prediction was early in the season, but and some could say Cincinnati underperformed, but they're still strong on that defensive end.
Yes, and good luck to the winner of that one because they get the top seed Houston come Friday. So the second game, of course, East Carolina-Cincinnati is a 9-8 game. The second game is a 10-7 matchup. Wichita State taking on number 10 Tulsa. I know you as a UCF guy, just like me, had our hearts taken out by Jariah Horn's long-distance shot to beat the Knights at the end of the game as the Knights continue to have their issues in the city of Tulsa. But this is neutral court. So if the Knights ever had to face Tulsa, it would be good news from that front. But Tulsa, of course, has to play Wichita State, which is had a disappointing season. Tulsa has had a real difficult season as well. What do you think about this 10-7 matchup?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that game the other night. I mean, it's. I guess it shouldn't be. Nothing should be surprising as far as something like that happening for a UCF team going into Tulsa. I don't care if it's basketball, football, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that was an interesting way to finish the season if you're a Knights fan. And so that was certainly a tough one. But both of these teams are capable of beating, some better opponents. But I don't think they're going to go much further when you kind of got the hometown team of SMU in the second round after this one. But just overall, I think just kind of discipline of Wichita State and the kind of power from the point guard position of Tyson Etienne is just going to be enough to get it done. You got a Dizzy in the middle. Jariah Horn has had a great kind of super senior season. He was somebody that I actually was able to call a couple games on in the early season tournament. So I got an early look at Tulsa this year. And just Jariah Horn's just an impressive player overall. He kind of has that mid-range game, kind of uses his big body well, certainly can shoot well from beyond the arc, kind of anywhere on the floor. He's kind of that three-level scorer, but ultimately I think Wichita State has enough to kind of take that one on. I mean, as you mentioned, both of these teams have had a little bit of a disappointing season, but Wichita State's disappointments, a lot of that happened in the early conference season, and they were able to kind of go on a little bit of a run towards the end there, and it's been a little back and forth towards the back half of the season. But that being said, I think Wichita State's got enough to go ahead and take on Tulsa in the first round of the conference tournament, especially since it was only about a week ago where they faced Tulsa at their place and were able to beat them by 10 points. So they don't have as much issues with Tulsa on the road as the Knights have had over the years.
Yeah. So does hitting a big game-winning shot like that to end a season, does that help a team like Tulsa get some momentum going in?
I mean, it certainly could, especially who hit it, right? I mean, Jariah Horn is somebody that they kind of rally around on that team. He's no doubt their senior leader. I mean, Tulsa is a team that has had a lot of transfers come into the program. Jariah Horn's a kind of a transfer himself. He's one of those journeyman college basketball players, which is a new term over the last couple of years. He's somebody who started out at Tulsa and then came back, transferred a couple times and then came back. But regardless, I think that could carry some momentum. But I think more so than the shot, in that game against UCF, they were down by 14 at two different times in the second half. And I think if there's any momentum, it may have just as much to do with the comeback to get to that shot than it is the shot itself. So we'll see if they can kind of carry those good vibes against a team that, as I just mentioned, they faced a week ago. So maybe they can learn from some things there. But ultimately, I think just Wichita State, they kind of play together and kind of have a little bit more talent on that end of the floor, kind of from top to bottom, that I think they're going to be able to go ahead be enough to take that first round matchup.
All right, so next game, we apologize to our audience. We're going to go a little homer here. It's the 6 seed UCF and the 11 seed South Florida. So transversely, UCF on the end of that game-winning shot against Tulsa. And, of course, the game before that, a chance to crack the top 5, and they didn't get it done against Tulane. So they kind of limp in a little bit into the conference tournament. What are your thoughts there on that contest?
Yeah, I mean, They certainly have, and as a UCF guy, of course, I was hoping that they won 4 of their last 5 up until that Tulane game, and so I was really hoping that they could push forward and kind of carry a lot of momentum going into the conference tournament. And with Darren Green Jr. out for some sort of undisclosed reason for the Tulane game, and still having having Brandon Mahan out as well, they just really couldn't find any offense in that game and just kind of got blown out. And so, as a UCF guy, I was hoping, as the way that Tulsa game started, that they were going to really carry some momentum. But unfortunately, obviously, we were a victim of that last shot. But when it comes to this matchup against USF, listen, I mean, they basically shocked us early in the season when we went to Tampa and had to play USF and basically had our worst offensive performance of the season, I believe, up until that point and possibly since. And they kind of couldn't miss a shot for the first time all year. It was just like the weirdest, rivalry game where these types of things happen, where we just didn't show up and they were ready for us that night. Now, I don't expect type of performance out of USF. They have really struggled this year. I don't expect that type of performance out of them coming into this game. Obviously, it's a rivalry game in a conference tournament, and so you expect them to come to play and come ready with, especially their young guard, Caleb Murphy. But I think we're going to have enough firepower to go ahead and take them on. And the hope is, if you're a Knights fan, that we're able to kind of put them away early and really kind of establish ourselves, because I don't care who wins that UCF versus USF game. You're going to go up against probably the hottest team in the conference in the second round in Memphis, and so you better have some positive vibes going into that game. You better not limp into that game, because that's a tough team and it's going to be a tough out throughout the conference tournament.
Yeah, most definitely there. We'll definitely get into the meat of the later part of the bracket there, because I think it's going to prove to be very interesting. So on Friday, the only matchup that we know of right now, because we have to wait for the outcomes of the Thursday games, is the 5-4 matchup between Tulane and Temple. That looks like a very interesting game on paper to me. Tulane's had a terrific season. Temple had a better season than I think most people anticipated. This could be a pretty spicy matchup.
Yeah, I just want to say out loud, I don't know how many votes he's actually going to get, but Temple, I mean, Aaron McKee should get some votes for Conference Coach of the Year, in my opinion. I know that it's probably going to go, to the Houston's coach, and it's going to be well deserved once that probably inevitably happens. But or maybe Penny Hardaway is probably going to get some votes as well, kind of his turnaround of the team. But I really think Aaron McKee deserves some looks and some recognition for what he's done with this Temple team. I think they were, if I'm not mistaken, picked to finish last in the conference this year, if not second to last. And they've had a great season where they just kind of gutted out wins. They've just shown that kind of Philadelphia toughness that their players are known for, and kind of their star and Damian Dunn kind of exudes. And so, regardless of what happens on Friday night, I think it's probably going to be the first, if you're going to call that kind of a first round matchup, and I understand there's a bye there, but kind of the first games of the matchups that we know right now, I think that's easily going to be the most kind of close and kind of pick 'em game there is. But at the end of the day, I don't want to discount the type of year that Tulane has put together. They've got it done on the defensive end of the floor, and they've got some players on their team that that can really get hot at any moment. And so I think ultimately they have enough firepower to get it done. But I would not be surprised if Temple, kind of made it past Tulane in this game. I think it's the most pick-em game of the early matchups.
Yeah, and Ron Hunter might be a guy who gets some Coach of the Year looks too.
Yeah, absolutely, and very much deserved so. Ron Hunter's, certainly somebody who has built that program in Tulane pretty well over the years, and he's one that is certainly an excellent coach that deserves some recognition for the season that he's put together over there as well.
Yeah, no question. So, if you look at that, if the chalk holds up, you would have a Houston Temple matchup and an SMU Memphis matchup. And you look at this season, it's conference tournament time's different than the regular season, but it's not a foregone conclusion that Houston's going to run through this thing. They I believe they split with SMU. They got handled by Memphis, and boy, Memphis made a big statement on Sunday. I think that they are to be be reckoned with. I think the semifinals could shape up to be really interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, they obviously lost some of their top players this year in Houston, but again, though, they're just that team that kind of top to bottom, they're so disciplined, and they kind of have a lot of positionless players. I mean, they got size, and they certainly have some great guards, but they have players that kind of can play multiple positions, and they do a lot of things well, but I think they do so well is they stay so connected and together on defense, and they're just incredible at crashing the boards especially the offensive glass. I mean, it's team positional rebounding, and they get so many second chance points that Houston just has the ability to wear anybody down. I mean, obviously they're the number one seed in the conference tournament for a reason. They've certainly earned that with the record that they have, they've also earned the great net ranking that they currently have at 5 in the country. And so even with losing some of the great players that they have lost in Marcus Sasser in particularly, I mean, you lose the conference player of the year. And who was the other guy? Oh, Trayvon Mark, right? Trayvon Mark as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they kind of lose their top two, and they miss a beat. I mean, obviously they took those 2 straight losses to the other top seeds in the conference in SMU and Memphis in the middle of the season, but they only took those losses and then bounced back and rattled off 6 straight before they lost at a really tough place to play in Memphis. So I mean I certainly, even despite the Memphis loss, I don't think they're by any means limping into the tournament. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be so well prepared.
And didn't Houston have like 4 games in 8 days going into that game against Memphis? I think that was their 4th game in 8 days. So they might have had a little fatigue there too.
Oh, that's a great point. And we just talked about the top players that went down. I mean, there was a stretch of the season there. They were only playing about 7, maybe 8 guys at certain times, but it was like 6, 7, 8, 6, 7 guys. So they had a big hit to their depth. So you're right. I mean, I'm just looking at the dates now. You're absolutely right. It was a quick turnaround in all of these games. So certainly that could have something to do with it. And hey, they earned the number 1 seed in the conference, and they earned that side of the bracket. And so they probably will not really face any resistance until they get to that final on Sunday night, and we'll see what happens. But I definitely think Houston's going to be able to get past either Tulane or Temple, and Cincinnati and East Carolina should be no issue for them. It would be a huge upset if it happened in the quarterfinals, but I don't think there's any doubt that Houston will be right there in the finals. It's just a matter of who they're going to face.
Yeah, and if we get an SMU Memphis matchup, SMU took both meetings this year. So, and I find this very interesting with the top 3 seeds is they all seem to match up well with each other.
Yeah, they do. And they've kind of traded victories throughout the season, right? And I know that SMU has taken both of the ones against Memphis, but I believe those were, the
January game that Memphis didn't have all their.
About SMU, just to take a step step back about SMU. SMU is not only, impressive team top to bottom, and obviously Kendrick Davis is, he's an incredible player at the point guard position.
He's a dude.
Dude, that's a good way to say it. He is a dude. He just gets it done. He's like an undersized guy, but he just he's an impressive player to watch. So he deserves all the credit and accolades that I'm sure are coming his way as the conference accolades are going to be revealed here soon. Now, that being said, another thing about SMU is that they're 15-0 at home this year. They have not lost a game at home. And I know that Dickies Arena is not their home arena, but they're playing in their hometown. And so that can't be kind of overlooked if they were to face a Memphis, or if they were to even facing their first round, the first game for them in the conference tournament versus Tulsa and Wichita State. I don't anticipate any issues for SMU in that game. And so while Memphis is a great team overall and they're super hot right now, if that matchup occurs in the semifinals between SMU and Memphis and we go chalk, Memphis, as usual, is their most talented players are their youngest players, right? So, does that make a difference when you've got an experienced, amazing point guard in Kendrick Davis that could take over games, and he's in his hometown to boot? It makes that matchup, if it were to happen, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, again, as a UCF guy, I'm hoping that matchup between SMU and Memphis doesn't happen, but but Memphis is really firing on all cylinders right now. They're playing very, very good basketball.
Yeah, no question about it. So, if you had to crystal ball it, who do you think comes out at the winner at the end?
It's kind of hard for me to pick this because the top three seeds in this tournament are just so solid, and I think these games are just going to be incredible down the stretch. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Memphis is going to get hot enough, and they have enough talent to get them over the hump and get them through to the final. I think that they're playing with a lot of poise. They're healthier than they have been throughout this season. I think that they're, unless there was an injury that I hadn't heard of recently, I know that they're kind of healthy, and they're providing some depth to go with that talent that they have on their roster, and I think they're going to be able to kind of pull it out. But they're going to get a huge test in that semifinals against a team that, as you pointed out, Jeff, they have not been able to beat this year so far. So that SMU Memphis matchup, if it were able to happen, is going to be a heck of a game. And then regardless of who comes out of that one, whoever has to face Houston, if that's the assumed kind of chalk matchup, it's going to be a great game in the final, and who knows where it goes from there. Now, with Houston and their kind of depth issues, does that, and they're guaranteed kind of locked to, have a high seed in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, they're not the type of team that takes any championship opportunity off, and no team should in this tournament. But, does Memphis kind of have enough kind of hot, nature about them that, kind of have enough momentum if they're able to beat SMU and face Houston in that final to kind of get them over the hump? I kind of think that they do, and so if I feel like I'm going out on a limb there, not saying that the best team in the conference all year in Houston or the hometown team in SMU is going to pull it out, but I think that's kind of my kind of gutsy pick to win it all. I think Memphis has enough to take it on.
Yeah, an interesting storyline too. Larry Brown, the former SMU coach, is on Penny Hardaway's staff. Think about that. Think about this. What a great luxury for Penny. I think it was a great move to get him because Larry Brown has seen everything in basketball. He's probably forgotten more basketball than maybe some of the top 20 coaches in the history of basketball.
Yeah, and he sure does. He sure does. Yeah, it's a great addition to the staff, and I think it's a testament to Penny Hardaway and him realizing that he needs that experience on his bench. I mean, he's done a good job. I mean, of gathering talent not only on his roster but on his coaching staff as well. He's leaned on the experience of somebody like Larry Brown. I mean, I know Mike Miller, a former NBA player, was on his staff at one time. I'm not sure if he's still on his staff now, but he's got some great experience and great talent from a coaching perspective to match up with the unbelievable recruiting classes that he gets every year. And as somebody who lived in Memphis during the Tubby Smith, Josh Pastner years. And then right as I was about to move back to the Orlando area, Penny Hardaway was hired. But I mean, there was years leading up to that everyone in the city knew who the next coach of the Tigers was going to be. It was just a matter of when, because obviously Penny is such a big Memphis guy. But not only that, he was a very successful coach at the high school level in East High School in Memphis. So they knew that he was going to be an excellent recruiter, and he has proven to be that. But we've seen flashes of good, X's and O's coaching out of him, but maybe not consistent as we've seen, with others. And so I think that this year, with some of the staff that he's put together, especially adding Larry Brown to his bench, I agree with you. I think that he's got this team poised and ready to kind of take that talent to the next step, to the kind of championship level that we saw late last season and throughout this season. They had kind of an up and down season overall, especially in the beginning. But I think a lot of that had to do with some injuries that they've had and this young team just trying to find their way. They've got some senior leaders, but their talent obviously is coming from the one and done guys like Monty Bates and Jalen Duren, so. Yeah,
no question about it. And so has the AAC done enough to get 3 teams into the NCAA? I know a lot of folks are saying the Memphis victory on Sunday might have got them in. SMU's been on the border of the first 4 in, last 4 out quite a bit. Of course, bracketology drives me nuts this time of year, but that's a whole nother show.
That changes by the hour, right?
Yeah.
Bracketology changes by the hour during this time of year.
Yeah, but it's like, has the AAC done enough to get 3 in, which I think they deserve to be? What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree that I think that they deserve to have 3 in, but I think it could potentially depend on, how this works out. I think that if Memphis is the team that kind of, Memphis or SMU, if they make a run, I mean, you're talking about SMU's at 22 wins right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 22 wins in the AAC, with 13-4 in the AAC. I mean, they're the ones that are probably on the bubble, right? So if SMU is the one that kind of like drives through and say that semifinal matchup is everything that we thought it would, we think it's going to be right now between SMU and Memphis, right? And they got out a tough win against Memphis. That's another huge notch on their belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Along with, at that point, would be 24 wins on the season. And so at that point, I think that a semifinal win against Memphis would probably push SMU over the top. Now, if Memphis were to make a run as well, you can kind of see that. Now, Houston kind of dominates. Maybe there's some tricky things that go on there between between Memphis and SMU, but it just really does seem like it's shaping up with Memphis at 35 in the net and SMU kind of on that bubble at 49 in the net. It kind of seems like they notch a couple more wins in the conference tournament, that they're getting much closer to being in. It almost seems like that semifinal matchup, as long as it happens, it could be solidify it for both teams, depending on how the game goes. But I think that's the one that the committee is going to be looking at a lot to decide. Sometimes in March in this committee, it comes down to little things, but man, I just can't imagine at 23-7 if they lose to Memphis in a tough game, and they would be 23-8 on the season. It just feels like SMU should still deserve to be in it. And then if you're talking about that scenario, that's Memphis in the final at 21 wins with some huge wins that they've had throughout the year. The Houston most recent one being a big one there. So this kind of feels like it's shaping up to be a very high possibility of it being a 3-team league, which I think SMU probably, which is it's crazy to say with the amount of wins they have so far, but it just kind of seems like they need that extra resume building win of Memphis in the semifinals to kind of push them over the edge.
Yeah, I think definitely a strong conference performance will help, particularly if there are bid stealers in other conferences that shake the foundation up a little bit.
Yeah, that's another thing that obviously happens during March, right? In these other conference tournaments, and the AAC has either the curse or the luxury of going last, right? Their final is the last conference tournament, So we'll see. Obviously, there might be some interesting things that happen if Houston just kind of runs through it and, gets that automatic bid. But I feel like if SMU and Memphis get the automatic bid, then there's a really, really high chance of being a 3-bid league.
Yeah. Well, it'll certainly be a fun weekend, that's for sure. And one last note before we go, of course, UCF women's basketball team, they won their first round game. They're, of course, the top seed. They finally got an AP top 25 ranking, which is many, many weeks overdue. And clearly the favorite in the women's conference tournament. And it'll be interesting to see. They'll get in the NCAAs. I guess South Florida's probably going to have a shot at getting in, but they probably need to solidify their standing. So the women's tournament has some spice to it as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that I have zero issue with going homer on this. I don't even consider it homer, just because of the way that Coach Abe's team has played this year. I think UCF is just poised to kind of just run through this. It's pretty obvious. It'll probably be USF and UCF in the final there, because those are kind of the top two teams in the conference, kind of head and shoulders above the rest. But you even saw it today in that Tulsa versus UCF game, where Tulsa kind of hung around in the first half. They kind of stayed with them, but that defense of UCF it just wears teams down. They're just relentless. With Diamond Battles at the head of that defense, and just the poise and senior leadership that they have at the forward and center positions, they're just such a tough, team, defensive team that they just kind of have the ability to demoralize some teams. So I just really anticipate them going forward and winning their first American Conference Tournament championship to add to their first regular season championship that they had this season. And on top of that, I really think with the defensive mentality that they have and just how elite they are defensively, I think they have a real shot to make a little bit of a run here and in the NCAA tournament. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because we all understand that those types of things that I just talked about as UCF fans, when it comes to women's basketball, them making a run in the NCAA tournament is history every step of the way, because they've never won an NCAA tournament game. But that being said, this is the team to do it. I think, and Coach Abe is just been an excellent coach for this team, and I just think that regardless of what happens in the American Conference Final, they're absolutely in. I think that they're going to be able to hoist that trophy at the end of Thursday night there in Fort Worth as well, and kind of get that done.
Yes, and as we all know, defense travels well in the postseason, and I think the other great thing about their defense that you spoke of is, not only do they just smother teams and wear them down, but if they get off to a slow start offensively, it doesn't matter because they can't.
Yes.
The other team can't score on them.
and even on offense, I mean, their defense, they are able to push the pace when they need to, especially off of the turnovers that they create, their defense that creates. But it's not really necessary for them because they have the ability in the half court to, pound it inside to somebody like Masani Kaba or Brittany Smith, but also kick it back out to the, 3 or 4 great shooters that they have, so they really just have a well-balanced team on both ends of the floor. And so I think it's a year for them where, anything can happen in March, of course, but it's a year for them where they really are looking to move forward in a big way in the postseason.
Outstanding stuff has always been Stout, our Knightline Sports Network basketball analyst. And, of course, UCF fans can hear him on the Knightline podcast and also on the Knightline at Night on WDBO. Ben, as always, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me as always, Jeff. And looking forward to our text message conversations back and forth as this March Madness gets going here and this postseason of college basketball really gets into the full swing. It's my favorite sports time of year, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Ben.
All right, thank you.
And we're back with final news and notes right after this.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up the menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
All right, let's take a look at some other sports news in the American and softball. The player of the week is Jada Cody of UCF. As they had a 5-1 week, she batted .444, slugged .12222, and reached base at a clip of .524 with 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, and 5 runs. Pitcher of the week, Georgina Corrick of South Florida. 4 straight. That equals a conference record, getting that Pitcher of the Week honor in the same season, joining UCF's Shelby Turner in 2015 and Tulsa's Emily Watson in 2017. And her most dominant week of the season, 5-0 with a save in 6 appearances, issuing just 1 walk, striking out 48 batters in 32 1/3 innings, and opponents only batted .076 against her for the week. In baseball, the player of the week is Ethan Gruff of Tulane. Had an outstanding week as they had a series win over defending national champion and then number 9 Mississippi State, hitting .647, 11 for 17 with 10 runs, 4 doubles, 2 home runs, and 8 runs driven in, and the game-winning walk-off home run in the 10th of an 11-10 victory on Saturday. The Green Wave rallied from a 10-2 deficit in that game. Pitcher of the week is Connor Stain of UCF, 7 shutout innings, as UCF knocked off number 2 Ole Miss in 12 innings, 1-0 on Saturday night, allowed only 2 hits and 1 walk, and struck out 10. Tennis, the American Athletic Conference Women's Tennis Player of the Week is Sophia Biolay of UCF, 2-0 in singles play, 2-1 in doubles, as the Knights had 2 wins in 3 matches last week. The Men's Tennis Player of the Week is Ezequiel Santala of Tulsa. He's ranked number 99 on the ITA singles rankings and combined 4-0 in singles and doubles to help Tulsa to a pair of victories. Across the American Athletic Conference Attack Player of the Week is Kylie Noss of Cincinnati. The Midfielder of the Week, Bel Mastro Pietro of Temple. The Defensive Player of the Week, Danny Mulcovi of Cincinnati. And Emma Lopinto is the AAC Freshman of the Week as far as that goes in lacrosse. And that'll wrap things up for this episode. As always, please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88 and the Knightline Sports Network at UCF_Knightline. This has been the AAC Report only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.